Thank you so much. Thank you to Professor Tommy and also to Professor Mansouri, and I'm so glad both of you have acknowledged the rather large elephant in the world right now. It's so important to acknowledge what's going on. It really is an honour for me to be here amongst such esteemed guests, so many bright minds, passionate educators, dedicated researchers and strong community leaders in this room. We are, of course, meeting on Aboriginal land. I was born on Larrakia land in the Northern Territory. I grew up on Kaurna land in Adelaide, and I work and live on Boonwurrung and Woiwurrung land in Melbourne's west. As a storyteller and an observer of history, I want to thank our First Nations as the original storytellers and history holders of history for their ongoing contributions and leadership. They very much show us the way. Also a big thanks to Deakin University for this opportunity to speak and to share my thoughts. And I do have a bit of an interesting connection to Deakin. I was a distant student with Deakin many, many years ago. I'm not going to mention the year. It was definitely pre-internet era, and I think Deakin back then might have been one of the only organisations in Australia to offer distance and remote learning, and I was completing my journalism course while living and working as a reporter for the ABC in Alice Springs, and Deakin really was the only option. So my books would come via the post. I would send the books back via the post, and my assessments and assignments via the post. So it was quite unusual, and I never actually stepped foot on a Deakin campus through any of that time. So it's quite lovely to be here all these years later and to look back on those days and really remember how different things were. And let's face it, when the world is full of tension and turmoil, as it is right now, it's natural, I guess, for people to tend to look back fondly at the old days, to yearn for something simpler, calmer, better. There were simpler times, I guess. Decades ago, we certainly had fewer choices and options, particularly for women. I'm the first generation, I think, to really benefit from equal opportunity legislation, and while I've still faced plenty of discrimination in my work and in my life, I have been able to achieve so much more, and so many of the things I wanted to achieve compared to my mother and certainly her mother before her. Education, employment, economic success, and in a place like Australia, that is possible. A lot is being said these days about Australian values, who shares them and who doesn't, but many of the folks who like to talk about Australian values can't really articulate what they are. We know the cliches, a fair go, looking out for your mates, a laid-back way of life, but each and every one of us in this room has something different to add to that list, to understand what being Australia, living in Australia means to us. It might be freedom from tyranny if you've fled war or dictatorship. It might be the right as a woman to work as anything I want and to choose what kind of family I want. It might be the ability to grow a community, build schools, mosques, synagogues or temples to pray and to learn scripture. It might be the right to protest on the streets or to cast a vote, having a say in who forms the government of the day. Go to university to become who you want to become. When it comes down to it, for me, Australia is about equality, inclusion, respect for others, and these are, of course, just human values, really. And while Australia is respected around the world, we do need to reckon with some of the low points, massacres of First Nations people, declaring the land empty, the White Australia policy, and what seems to be a race to the bottom over the past decades when it comes to discussing and debating immigration. It is important to have a discussion about immigration. About a third of all Australians currently are foreign-born. Everyone but our First Nations people ultimately have their history somewhere else. I have Irish and British on my mother's side. On my father's side, a veritable all sorts. There's mostly English, but a bit of Scandinavian, some Eastern European, some Western European. We're a nation of immigrants, and it's obvious that we should talk about it. Not yell about it, not be abusive or hateful. Talk about it like adults. a Scanlon Foundation, and I was a bit worried you're going to steal my thunder there, Simon, a little earlier, but in 2024 they found that 85% of Australians said multiculturalism was good for the country and the economy. But attitudes towards the levels of immigration to Australia have certainly shifted in recent years. The Scanlon study found that more than half of Australian-born citizens thought immigration was too high. That's about twice the level as it was in 2022. For those not born in Australia but who spoke English, 49% felt that way in 2024 compared to about 21% in 2022. And for those not born in Australia who didn't speak English, in 2022 16% of them thought immigration levels were too high, while in 2024 that had more than doubled to 39%. So these figures show that many Australians from all backgrounds worry about immigration. And people are right to criticise the failed policies, the inadequate programs, and a lack of investment in key infrastructure that can affect our quality of life. Housing affordability, cost of living, anxiety about jobs, education for our kids, health. But so much of the discussion relies on mistruths, or it lacks context, or it seeks to demonise certain communities. And this is an area where the rhetoric, the hyperbole, and emotions are dialed at 13 when we need to have a calm and considered response. It's also an area where bad faith actors, tech companies, right-wing nationalists, white supremacists, racist politicians and others try to drive a wedge, create anger and fear. They're trying to get followers or clicks, make money or attract votes. It's a business model and a route to get elected. We are being manipulated day in, day out. They don't care if it's true, they just care that you engage, that you like, that you share. They want to divide, they want to disrupt. To overcome this, we need to rebuild trust in each other, in our institutions, in our systems. And one way is to be better consumers of news and information. Now, you don't have to be as cynical as the average journalist, but we do all need to be questioning what's being shared and the motives for doing so. Skepticism is your friend. We need to be wary of where the material is coming from. Is it from a trusted news or primary source? A news source that I even know. There are so many weird and wacky websites out there. Is it legitimate as a website? Did the person quoted actually say those things? Is that picture real? Is that study real? And perhaps most importantly, who benefits from me feeling angry? Because that's what the aim of this is, to make us feel angry. Now, we're lucky in this country because we can question our leaders legitimately. We have rights as citizens and taxpayers to demand answers from government departments, to have corporations front up and answer questions about the goods and the food that they supply us. And as voters, we can call up our MPs, our senators, our local councillors and ask them why they're doing what they're doing. And every couple of years, we put those folks to the ultimate test, an election. As members of a democracy that still actually functions, let's use those levers. Requesting meetings with our representatives, writing or signing petitions, joining groups that share our values, and making respectful arguments that reflect our views and educate others. Let's be adults. Let's show that we can disagree, but that we can be calm about it. We can't always control what's happening to us, especially in these times. But as the saying goes, we can control how we respond. And we can rise above it too by demonstrating our values. If we hear or see casual racism, we shouldn't accept it. If we're in a position to do so, we must call it out. The joke isn't funny when someone gets hurt or feels small or is excluded. Looking out for one another is the most Australian thing I can think of. We can do it on the train if we see someone being targeted or bullied. If we don't feel it's safe to intervene, we can let them know we're here, we are watching. We can stay with them. Once the danger is over, we can provide comfort. perhaps help connect them with friends and family. We can seek assistance. Maybe something's happening on campus, on the sidelines of the sports field or the school oval. Let's attract the attention of somebody of authority, the teacher, the club manager. Report incidents to authorities. If authorities don't know things are happening, they won't act. We can record incidents via phone or video. And it doesn't have to be an extreme case for us to demonstrate our values. It might be as simple as looking around you and taking note of the person who's not taking part, who's new to the group, who's shy. Make an effort to say hello, smile, look them in the eye with kindness and warmth. Make them feel welcome, feel like they belong. One of the best things we can do is actually celebrate our communities. This dinner is a wonderful example of that. But there are so many examples of the joy, the love, the way our communities give to others and each other. The Sikh volunteers who are out there with food and comfort during bushfires, the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre's outreach and advocacy, the great work the Australian Intercultural Society does with thoughtful and insightful discussions, Multicultural Women Victoria's annual fashion project, the neighbourhood Diwali festivals and myriad of other cultural celebrations in neighbourhoods across the land. By living our values, showing our values, demonstrating our values, we undermine the negativity and we build trust and we build love. The true beauty of Australia is that there is no one size fits all. There never has been, there never will be. Thank you.